Hello, good day everyone. I'm Justin J. Marikit. So I'm a part of the group 4 and this is the members. So our topic is all about individual versus social identity online. So first, let's talk about the objectives of our topic. First is to figure out what constitutes an individual's and social online identity. The second is understand the distinction between personal and social identity online. The third is recognize the significance of identities in gaining a better understanding of oneself. And lastly, to learn in improving your personality mostly through online. So let's talk about internet identity. So first, what is internet identity? An internet user's online identity, also known as internet persona, is a social identity that they create in online forums and websites. It can also be thought of as a self-presentation that is deliberately built. An online identity can be anything from a social media profile or a forum account to a video game character or even a shopping cart. Basically, it can be either be a social identity associated with an online community or just a simple account or data that's associated with online service. Although some people choose to use their real names online, some internet users prefer to be anonymous, identifying themselves by means of pseudonyms which reveal varying amounts of personal identifiable information. An online identity may be even determined by a user's relationship to a certain social group they are part of online. Some can be deceptive about their identity. In some online contexts, including internet forums, online chats, and massively multiplayer online role-playing games like MMORPG, users can be represent themselves visually by choosing an avatar, an icon-sized graphic image. Avatars are one way users express their online identity through interaction with other users, and establish online identity acquires a reputation, which enables other users to decide whether the identity is worth of trust. Online identity are associated with users through authentication, which typically requires registration and logging in. Some websites are also used to users' IP address or tracking cookies to identify users. If you're looking for a more accurate and specific definition of what online identity is, then here's one. Any bit of information, no matter how small, that can be found about an individual on the internet. That means that an internet identity can be comprised of things like logging credentials, online transactions, online search activities, medical history, date of birth, and browsing history. Examples of online identity. First is social media profiles like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and etc. In this online identity, we just need to sign up and fill up the necessary information for us to log in order to socialize and interact other people, especially to our loved ones. You can also communicate with them by sending message. You can also fake your information online, so in order to avoid that, people do not trust easily on online platforms. So the second example is online games. The common online games are Dota 2, Ragnarok, and many more. But I played Dota 2. We can choose a hero and played other people, and also MMORPG games like Ragnarok. We can choose the avatar and put IGN or in-game names for us to play to other people and to socialize with them and talk to them. The third example is shopping carts. So we use shopping carts in malls or online shopping. In this online identity, we should need put our personal informations like names, birth, and they also have a PIN codes. So we use shopping carts to have easier transactions to our supplier. So that's all. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I am Bral Jasper Fernandez. So my topic is importance of online identity. It provides platform for a people to express their feelings and show different sides of their personalities. It helps people to understand you more holistically. It helps to shape people's interpersonal perception. So first, what is online identity? Also, internet identity or internet persona is a social identity that an internet user establishes in online communities and websites. It can be considered as an actively constructed presentation of oneself. Although some people choose to use their real names online, some internet users prefer to be anonymous, which reveal varying amounts of personally identifiable information. An online identity may even be determined by a user relationship to a certain social group. They are part of online. Some can even deceptive about their identity. So now, let's talk about my main topic, the importance of online identity. The expansion of conventional notions of identity has been aided by the rise of internet communication and social media. People now have internet identities in addition to their physical ones. Because a material posted online may exist forever, they can shape people's interpersonal perceptions of you in the real world. and employers tend to use online platform to individuals. Managing the relationship between online and real life identities can be difficult. Knowing how to effectively manage your online identities in critical. And let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of personal identity. The advantage of personal identity is strengthen your character. The advantage of personal identity is you strengthen your character. That is when we know who we are, have a confidence in ourselves, and are able to identify our strength. We emerge as a stronger individuals. And let's talk about the disadvantage of personal identity online. Identity theft and misuse. The disadvantage of personal identity is identity theft and misuse. This stems used from the fact that the creation of a digital identity usually involves using actual details about the person's real identity, and information that in the wrong hands can be proved dangerous.
Good evening, sir. My name is Juby Hidoyo, the marine engineering student, the section of M&Ed. So tonight, let's talk about what is social identity. Also, online identity or internet person is a social identity that on internet. User establishes in online communities and online website. It can be also be considered as an actively constructed presentation of oneself. Some websites also use the user. Why social identity is important? Social identification is important because it will influences how people see themselves and how they interact with others. If people have a positive view of their identity within a group, they are more likely to relate well to others in that group and feel positive emotion about themselves. And also, social identity groups are usually defined by some physical, social, and mental characteristics of the individual. Social identity is a person's sense of who they are based on their social group membership. When there is a positive social identity, people are motivated to feel positive about themselves and maintain their self-esteem. So let's proceed. Why is virtual identity is important? Virtual identity is the manifestation of oneself in the digital worlds. Of commerce, email, social networking, and virtual worlds. Identity in our digital age is no longer tied to static physical anchors such as driver's license or passport. Also, simple put your digital footprint is a trail of your life. If you Google your name, what will you find? Ownership and control of virtual identity, control of an individual's virtual identity is yet another example of this future intellectual property battlefield. The virtual identity is the communities across the internet. The really defining identity are not longer limited to criminals manufactured, manipulated virtual identities with anonymous service the network.
Individual social identity or social identity refers to social categorization of self and others, self categories which define the individual in terms of his or her shared similarities with members of certain social categories in contrast to other social categories. Here are some examples of social identities. First is race or ethnicity. Second is gender. Third is social class or socioeconomic status. Fourth is sexual orientation. Fifth is disabilities. And last but not the least, religion or religious belief. An individual's social identity indicates who they are in terms of the group to which they belong. Social identity groups are usually defined by some physical, social, and mental characteristics of individual. Social identity theory. Social identity theory is a portion of an individual's self concept derived from perceived membership in a relevant social group. Social identity theory is created by psychologist Henry Tachfield and his colleagues in the early 1970s. They developed it from a series of studies, frequently called minimal group studies. There are three stages of social identity theory. First is social categorization, second is social identification, and third is social comparison. Social categorization suggests that people categorize themselves as belonging to certain groups such as nationality, gender, or even sports team. Social identity theory focuses on how group membership guide intergroup behavior and influence an individual's self-concept. Social identification explains that derive esteem from a group that they positively identify with. Therefore, they favor it. They allocate more resources to the in-group to maximize the difference between their in-group and out-groups in order to achieve such identifications. Comparison theory or social comparison is a pervasive and fundamental feature of group life. People compare themselves with fellow group members. They compare themselves with people in other groups and they compare their own group with other groups. In social categorization, you cannot belong to a group unless you know that the group exists, and we do this through observation. Observations happens all the time without you even thinking about it. It doesn't take long to see that people are divided into different groups. All it takes is for you to walk in a cafeteria or a library or a mall or listen to the news. Groups are labeled by their religion, nationality, and physical abilities, and so on. Social identification is once you start to categorize the world into different groups, it's time to look for yourself. You can identify yourself as man, woman, a non binary person, Catholic, Muslim, or even Scientologist, and so on. Understanding your identity and what you want to be does more than just continue to simplify how you look at the world and different groups within it. It can also give you a sense of belonging, which is very powerful.
So, hello everyone. I'm Orly B. Ibon, and today I will discuss the effects of social identity on children. So, there are two effects on social identity on children. So, the negative effects. First is requires information by others. Second is the difficult to shy kids. And third is potential for depression. And the positive effects of social identity on children. So first is the shapes self-image. Second, provide a sense of belonging. And third is foster caring for others. The online disinhibition effect. Online disinhibition effect is the lack of restraint one feels when communicating online in comparison to communicating in person. People feel safer saying this online which they would not say in real life because they have the ability to remain completely anonymous and invisible behind the computer screen. So, online disinhibition effect is it is known that people would say and do things or on the internet that they would not say or do in the face-to-face world. So they express themselves more openly and loosen up. Here is a toxic disinhibition. People explore the dark underworld of the internet, places of pornography and violence, places they would never visit in the real world. On the benign side, the disinhibition indicates an attempt to understand and explore oneself, to find new ways of being, or it is a blind catharsis and acting out of unsavory needs and wishes without any personal growth at all. However, the distinction between benign and toxic online disinhibition is not always clear. For example, a hostile word in the online chat may damage others' self-image, but on the other hand, if the word is genuine, perhaps it may help the person on the receiving end have a better understanding of themselves.
Managing online identities. Managing online identities is important because it provides platforms for people to express their feelings and show different sides of their personalities. It helps people to understand you more holistically. It helps to shape people's interpersonal perception. Managing online identities is important kay kuan. Nag-provide siya og platform for people to express their feeling and to show different sides of their personalities. Kanang magpakita sila sa ilang mga lahi-lahi nga personality. O makatabang pud siya sa mga tao para mas masabtan ang ug unsa ang holistically. Makatabang pud siya para mupurma sa mga tawong sa mga perception sa mga tao. Difference on personal identity and social identity. Personal identity refers to self-categories which define the individual as a unique person in terms of their individual differences from other in-group persons. Social identity refers to the social categorical self. Example, us versus them. In-group versus out-group. Us women, men, whites, black, and etc. Personal identity is about how you see yourself as different from those around you. Social identities tell how you like others. They cannot similarly rather than difference. Personal identity can simplify be understood as the sense of self that an individual develops as he grows older. Social identity can be understood as our understanding of who we are and of those other people are, and reciprocally other people's understand of themselves and others. Para nako ang personal identity is kanang unsay makita nimo sa imong kaugalingon nga lahi sa ubang tawo nga naa sa imong palibot, like kanang ang ubang tao nga nasa imong palibot is mga bisyo inana nya. Ikaw is nara ka sa inyo kanang wala kay bisyo, wala kay kuan, kanang different ka sa different kanila. Og sa social identities kanang tell how you like others, kanang makita nimo sa imong kaugalingon nga naa kay kaparehas sa ubang tawo, ni kanang murag ka vibes nimo pres anang og imong mga amigo, mga mga bisyoso nya, ikaw natakdan pug ka naka pug kag bisyo, nanamoy similarities similarities sa imong mga kuyog, kanang ura kag ma-influence. This is the example of personal identity chart. Our personal identity chart are the graphic tools that can help students consider the many factors that shape who we are as individuals and as communities. Use personal identity chart to deepen students' understanding of themselves, group, nations, and historical and literary figures. In an online learning environment, we advise against asking students to share their identity chart with their peers. While sharing parts of their identity chart can help students build community and relationship in a physical classroom. Posting their identity chart online can feel especially risky for students. Personal identity chart kay it's a diagram that individual fills with words and phrases they use to describe themselves as well as label that society given them.
My name is Devin Smith Candol and I'm from Bismarck Imonef. So I'm here, guys, to explain you about the advantage and disadvantage of social identity. But first, let me explain you guys what is a social identity. So usually every person has a social identity, which is how we perceive our various roles in society in relation to others, whether it is through social position, culture or ethnicity, interests, achievements or beliefs, sense of pride, self-worth, and consistency from their social identities. An individual's social identity indicates who they are in terms of the groups to which they belong. Social identity groups are usually defined by some physical, social, and mental characteristics of individuals. So I have here examples of society and identity, and these are race, ethnicity, gender, sex, sexual orientation, class or socioeconomic rules, religious, ability, citizenship, nation of origin, tribal affiliation, and age. Social identity is a portion of individual self-concept derived from perceived membership in a relevant social group. So researchers suggest that the importance of benefits of social identity include: it helps foster pro-social actions like caring for others, saving social support, and it helps satisfy the psychological need for esteem for others, and also it provides people a sense of belongings with a social group. So you see, the advantage of the social identity is that you can have
you can have friends or peoples that can hear about your problems, share your achievements, and all about yourself that you can share. So the disadvantage of social identity is that it does not take into account that other factors that could be creating conflict between two groups, and it can lead individuals to categorize themselves and other salient groups into us versus them. Self-categorization based on group membership might be so salient that it can be activated automatically even with subtle stimuli. So the disadvantage of social identity is that your other group and your main group there's a possible way to have a conflict about them. Recommendations of improving your personality. So I have here 10 great ways to improve your personality. So the first is be a better listener. So there's nothing more appealing than having someone to listen to you intently, making you feel like you're the only person in the world. Second is read more and expand your interests. So the more you read and cultivate your interests, the more interesting you are to others. So when you meet new people, it allows you to share what you know and to exchange your views with them. So the third is be a good conversationalist. So being a good conversationalist relates to how much you read and know. Once you have much to contribute, learn how to talk about it others. Fourth is have an opinion. So having an opinion is nothing more tiresome than trying to talk to someone who has no opinion on anything. So the fifth is meet new people. So make the effort to meet new people, especially those unlike you. So the sixth is be yourself. So the next humorous tiresome thing after having no opinions is trying to be something you are not. Number 7, have a positive outlook and attitude. So who wants to be around people who are negative, complains a lot, or having nothing good to say? In fact, most of us runs when we see them coming. So instead, be the kind of upbeat person who lights up a room with your energy when you enter it. 8. Be fun and see the humorous side of life. So everyone enjoys the company of someone who makes them laugh or smile. So look for the humorous and quirky side in a situation. 9. Be supportive for others. So being supportive is probably the most endearing quality you can integrate into your personality. And lastly, have integrity and treat people with respect. So being honest and true to your world will bring you admiration, respect, gratitude of others. That's all. Thank you.